Luckily, we're at a point in time where basically all APIs are supported by all the major browsers, which is just amazing. But it somehow makes it even more infuriating when some API, like for example the drag and drop API, isn't properly implemented in some browser. Let's for example take a look at Brave right here in macOS, so it's basically Safari. If we just take an element and drag it right here and then we scroll down, everything works. If we move our mouse to the bottom, this also works, and to the top, the same thing of course. So this is just like we'd expect it to. But the unfortunate thing is, Apple are the only one that are doing this the way I'd expect it to. And of course, because macOS doesn't support other browser engines properly, we are now on Windows to test it out on Firefox. So now let's drag something and start scrolling and nothing happens. Okay, let's move down to the bottom and it scrolls in a really uncomfortable way and also quite slow, which is kinda unfortunate, okay? Let's try Chromium using Brave, and I can't use the mouse wheel either. And sure, moving down now scrolls a lot faster and a bit less uncomfortably, but still I'd like to use a mouse wheel. And even if I can't, why can't I do it in Safari? Like, this inconsistency makes me furious, to be honest. So can't we just have this the same way everywhere? Okay, so you're probably able to tell that this inconsistency makes me really furious. But it's not the only one actually, and it's not even the only type of inconsistency. Because even the different types of events are inconsistent. Like for example, we got the on drag over event, which is obviously a substitute for on mouse over. Because yeah, the naming is really similar, it's obviously meant to be as easily to understand as possible. So let's just log when the events happen and try them out. So we are mousing over an element, and every time we mouse over, it logs once. So now let's start dragging, and oh, it basically logs every tick, which is not the same. Sure, this would be fine if it wasn't named the same as the mouse events. There's also an onDrag enter and onDrag leave, so why would this behave differently from the mouse event with the same name if it obviously is copying the type of mouse event? This is really inconsistent and might cause bugs or confusion, which just isn't necessary. Sure, while trying it out, I'll probably realize that there's an issue, but why even make that necessary, to be honest? And there actually is one more inconsistency I'd like to show you. Because I've implemented something that basically hides the element a bit, so it lessens the opacity when I start dragging it. Which is really nice because you can see which element is being dragged, but you still know where it is. So yeah, this is something that many applications actually do. So here it is in Safari, here it is in Chrome, and here it is in Firefox, where the preview is still there. You can really faintly see it, but you can tell that the opacity lowering is also applied to the preview and not just to the element. So once again, this is a bit of an inconsistency that isn't as bad as the other one, but it is still inconsistent because the time at which the preview is taken is different, so my code will behave differently in different browsers. I understand that implementing this on every browser in the same way is basically impossible, but it still is inconsistent and makes it hard to develop apps that behave the same way everywhere, which is something we all strive to do. So sure, this is not ranting about how Firefox should implement this differently or whatever. That's not my point. My point is that I want to rant about the fact that it's important to know these things and that it shouldn't be important. Honestly, I absolutely love being a web developer because I can just write code and it runs on every system because everyone has some kind of browser installed. They don't need to install my code, they can just run it and it will work. But these kind of inconsistencies just make my product worse in some ways, to be honest. And I just don't want that to happen. So I hope you can understand that I really get furious by stuff like this, and I'm not the only one. If we just look at React D&D, which is a drag and drop library for React, we can see that they also are not happy with the drag and drop implementation. HTML5 drag and drop has an awkward API full of pitfalls and browser inconsistencies. React D&D handles them internally for you, so you can focus on developing your applications instead of working around browser bugs, which is something that nobody should need to write. And I honestly haven't used React drag and drop at any point in time, so I don't know if they really solve all the problems or not. The point is, somebody felt the need to write a library to solve this problem instead of there actually being a solution on the browser level, which is what should have happened. So honestly, yeah, drag and drop is awkward to work around with and some stuff you really just can't properly do on all browsers. Which is why, honestly, most of my drag and drop implementations were stuff where I basically re-implemented the drag and drop API using mouse events, because most users just want to be able to use their mouse wheel while dragging something, which I understand. Many applications I've wrote actually require that. So yeah, I'm sorry, but I can't use this API. And I'm really furious about it because I love the fact that it's there. I love the fact that there's an API that can just handle drag and drop and that is at least implemented in all browsers. I just love if it was implemented properly and implemented properly in all the browsers in the same way.